this one is the most difficult issue to cover because of the history, the grievances.
It's so charged. That's why it's some of these issues are more fun to parse.
All right, we're back. So we were just checking off camera real fast because Max, you had mentioned about like the Baghdad murder rate. What did we find here compared to Cleveland?
Cleveland's is 33.7 per 100,000
in 2022.
Yeah, and Iraq's, we can't find Baghdad's, but Iraq's was, sorry, go back to the Wikipedia tab there. Scroll up to Iraq. I think it was, where is it right there? 15. So Iraq's is 15, Cleveland's is 33. So Baghdad, we can't find the actual number for, but
it's worse than Iraq.
Twice as bad as Iraq.
Yeah.
And East Cleveland's even worse than Cleveland. So
that's tough.
There you go.
Now, one of the things that comes across branding wise on your guys' Instagram, which is how you launched this whole thing effectively, like amalgamating the news and just trying to give it to people in a digestible way, simple, nothing but the facts. Like, how do you guys go about covering topics like the Gaza war right now and Israel and stick it to the facts and, try to not have opinion or bias put into it? Like, how difficult is that?
Dude, it sucks. I mean, honestly, like, especially, after a period of time, well, this hasn't really died out. People still care a lot, but certainly in like the first weeks of the war, I mean, we lost friendships over it. I mean, on both sides.
Yeah.
We had people texting us saying, again, dude, it's on a topic like that, if you're getting criticized by both sides, you're probably doing something right.
Yeah.
And if one side is wholly supporting you, you're definitely doing something wrong. I mean, like, it's more complicated than that. That being said, I mean, you want to figure out here's an example. Famine, right? They just declared, the IPCC, the international body that declares famines, just declared one on Friday. I believe it's Friday. And then it's like, okay, you can now say that there's a famine there. And that's the authority. A lot of other people came out and said there's a famine going on in Gaza, whatever. We waited for them. I mean, typically that's been the way that it's happened. I mean, that's certainly not an Israeli controlled body, right? That's whatever. So, just trying to figure out whatever. Another one early on, though, is probably second or third week of the conflict. There was a story that all these news outlets put out that an Israeli rocket hit a hospital and killed hundreds of people and whatever. And we waited to cover it. And then because there's no evidence, there's no proof yet. And subsequently it came out that it wasn't an Israeli rocket and the death toll is far lower. It was whatever, one of the other groups.
I know what one you're talking about. Yeah.
So it's just a matter of waiting on it. But honestly, for us, our brand is not breaking news. And that's a huge, huge advantage. We've structured it that way for a reason, because to verify something like that, you need a lot of resources and a lot of time. And, for us, we kind of do everything on a lag. Like, essentially, our biggest Instagram post, our main thing that we built that brand off of, is every single night we post, a rundown of the day's 4 biggest news stories.
Yep.
So you got the day to digest the news and figure out the truth.
And also, I would just add a couple things. We've interviewed, one is a shout out to Frost. He wrote, one thing we do that I think legacy companies do an awful job of, in fairness, I mean, it's an area where bias can creep in, is we provide context. The average person, even smart, educated person, you obviously read a lot independently, especially about global affairs and history. Most people, even really educated, they know so little about the history of the state of Israel. I mean, they've watched probably enough TikTok by now to know about the, UN's 1948 partition, whatever. But by and large, they know so little. So creating context of the history of the conflict, which is itself imperfect because you're never going to provide enough context nor enumerate enough of the grievances that either side has from history. But it was a great way to create context for the audience. We've also, by the way, when it comes to interviews, so that's on the creating context side. Daily reporting side, you wait, you verify, you also quote people instead of asserting yourself that it's a famine. Now that the IPC says you can't, but quote the groups that say it's a famine. Give the number to the best ability you can. We've also interviewed people from both sides. So we've interviewed Mehdi Hassan, who's obviously been among the most vocal pro-Palestine voices. We interviewed a guy who's named Dr. Hassan as well, who was a doctor over there. We interviewed John Spencer, who's more on the Israel side, even though he's not Israeli himself, but he's essentially the mouthpiece for the IDF's military strategy. West Point guy. Exactly. And it's funny, I actually met him randomly in Colorado, and he just, that's how we came in front of him, and I didn't realize how controversial he was at the time, and then he became, but we interviewed him, So you try to get different perspectives, and it's never enough. I mean, like I remember when the second we interviewed John Spencer, we ended up having another prominent pro-Palestine voice. I'm kind of blanking right now. But we essentially had all these interviews, but the second you do John Spencer, everyone's like, dude, you guys are a Zionist platform and all I'm doing this. And it's like, we just had
bullshit.
a couple. So I think this one is typical and this one is the most difficult issue to cover because of the history, the grievances.
It's so charged. You know, that's why it's some of these issues are more fun to parse because it's like you can really get in, you can figure out the facts of it, and you can say, okay, there's a lot of noise. Here's the truth. This issue is so charged that doing that, it becomes just like you're walking through a minefield. It's like everything is going to piss
Also,
you
God
off.
It turns into like Holy Land prophecy talk immediately.
Yeah.
And also, you know, people talk both sides, you know, harking back decade, you know, to 100 years ago or the Ottoman Empire. It's like, well, it's all history. I mean, at this point, and history is always written by different people, different perspectives.
100%.
So,
And I think also like to get to this, what differentiates us on, we always try to go to source material, hard, verifiable data, widely reported events, things that we ourselves can verify that are sort of primary source that we can base our stories off of. Well, this is one where right now there's very little reporting out of the Gaza Strip. And historically, the sources have been the Gaza Health Ministry or the IDF, and both have proven to be.
They're both bad.
It's like it's hard to know on the core sources. I mean, I've found too that, you know, it's so difficult to cover, and so many people speak about it with an expertise. Like the TikTok education thing is starting to piss me off because I've seen it with they'll do like this. So actually, and it's like you don't know this and. I say to you every day, and I still feel like you know it way better, the ins and outs, the history, and this and that. To me, it's also just on some issues you have to admit to ignorance isn't even the word, but just the complexity of it.
The complexity, and also there is fault in every direction. I have to build in. It's not a set percentage. It like moves based on the times, but I have to build in a percentage of propaganda regardless of what direction I'm looking in. Is the propaganda coming out of the Israeli government is insane. The propaganda coming out from the Gaza Health Ministry, which is effectively controlled by Hamas, is also insane. Yeah. And what that doesn't mean is that nothing's happening. Yeah. We can see that there is a toll. The fact that the Israeli government still does not let the international media in there is a disgrace. And, you know, where the mask really came off for me of just like, wow, there's something just so off here, was with that Rogan, Dave Smith, Douglas Murray thing. Because Douglas Murray, I have the ultimate disdain for people like that. Mm-hmm. Here is a very smart man. He is a very smart man. He's someone who studied history. He knows things. And in the past, I've appreciated some of his perspectives. But Douglas Murray thinks Joe Rogan is an idiot. And he always has. And Joe Rogan's not an idiot. Douglas Murray's the idiot for thinking that. He always has. But here's the thing about the Douglas Murrays and the Sam Harrises of the world. When the idiot, to them, their words, not their words I'm implying, not mine. When the idiot comedy cage fighting commentator decides to invite them on their show because he's going to agree with them on stuff and he has access to a lot of eyeballs that they can see, oh, they love him. They'll sing his praises publicly afterwards. They'll be like, Joe, this was such a pleasure. It's always great to see you. The minute that idiot is no longer useful to them and disagrees with them on something, well, now he's a problem. Now he shouldn't have a platform. You know? And I heard someone who said this the other day. Douglas Murray was talking about comedians shouldn't have this platform and all that 2 days later while he was sitting with fucking Bill Maher on his show. But Bill Maher agrees with him. And so the disdain I have for people like that who refuse to acknowledge anything wrong on their issue is so high because you are sitting across from someone in Dave Smith who is in the full opposite camp. And Dave Smith seems like a great guy and he knows a lot of stuff. But Dave Smith never saw a war that was ever correct in the history of the world, which is also not realistic. That is a utopian, libertarian view. And that's not to rip him. I'm just saying he's extremely on the other side. He was remarkable that day, though, because he let Douglas Murray bury himself. He just kind of stayed more quiet and was like, this is crazy. And so you see a guy like this who then claims to be an expert. Douglas Murray majored in fucking Shakespeare or some shit. And, you know, he's allowed to have access to Gaza because he gets to wear a press kit and he's sent there by Benjamin Netanyahu. But I'm supposed to trust you. These are the people speaking for your cause. That is why you have such a movement of people being like, yo, fuck these guys. Yeah. And it's not to say like, oh, Hamas is good. Hamas is terrible. You want to kill all of them? Knock yourself the fuck out. But like, let's not kill fucking 500 kids while we're killing 2 idiots in a tunnel.
Well, Douglas Murray, I mean, it was just so lazy. It was to not, when he got to talk about Darryl Cooper, it's evident he had never read or listened to any of his stuff. That was old media trying to co-opt new media. Mm-hmm. And it happens all the time. I mean, Douglas Murray's a shame. His book on immigration to Europe, The Strange Death of Europe, is pretty unbelievable. Like 10 years ago. It's probably, he was kind of big before that. But again, you know, these people that get in there and it's, he doesn't respect the people. He's an old school guy and he's from the old school elite and he doesn't respect the new school. And it was so evident. I mean, not doing his research on this, not actually looking into the way he talked to Rogan, the whole thing. Yeah. But yeah.
The arrogance he displayed, and also, I don't even believe the way his defense of the expert class and credentialism didn't make sense given that his own critiques of the establishment over the years. So I was kind of like, he clearly has a disdain for Dave Smith. And I do think there is a level of classism that exists with that type of Brit.
From
frankly.
A British guy? No way.
From a guy who was born into a well-off British family and is
Joe doesn't like the Brits.
Educated, I can see.
No, Joe loves the Brits. He just doesn't like the Douglas Murrays.
But he sort of you could see him disdaining someone like Dave Smith, and that came across. I think a sign of that is when you start to say things you don't even believe just to push them. And to your point of like his lecturing of Joe Rogan at the outset. So at the very least, it was a disaster class. And second of all, I don't agree with his defense of the elites. I mean, if he studied Western philosophy, he'd understand that most, in classical liberalism, you treat arguments by their merit. Yes. You assess them by their merits, not by those, arguing them. I mean, so all that's to say that was a disaster. Funnily enough, if anyone in here is still like, I thought he had a point. I thought on the Darryl Cooper thing, I'm not a Darryl Cooper fan myself.
I'm not either.
I think that he, even though he sort of always dances back from the line, it's clear what he said. Like when he tweeted that picture of the Olympic opening ceremony in Paris in 2024, and then Nazi invasion of Germany, or of Paris, and he's like, the Nazi picture is infinitely preferable in virtually every way compared to the Olympic one. That to me is crazy. I think him going after Churchill, even though he kind of always dances back and then refuses to debate Churchill. Like if Douglas Murray had the humility to at least make the argument and not go, what's his name? The Cooper fellow. And he knew the name, by the way. He just wanted to make him seem smaller by saying he didn't. That was just...
It's like, dude, you're 5'3". Sit down.
That to me was just ridiculous. And also him lecturing Rogan when Rogan invited him on for the debate. And that one rubbed that one was also just like this weird. It's funny though that moment, like I think when we're gonna look back, we're gonna keep talking about the debate. I think in the future.
Yeah, man.
I felt like that was a seminal moment for whatever reason.
You know what? He had such an opportunity too.
Yeah, I know.
Because I'm not a fan of Darryl Cooper. I think Darryl Cooper is what you get when you go so out of your way to propagandize people and tell people that there's nothing to see here with anything. It's like we've talked about 4 times today.
Yeah.
You turn people into the thing that you actually don't want them to be. And with him, when I remember when he had that Tucker Carlson episode come out, everyone freaked out. Yeah. I didn't know the guy. Said, let's go look at his Twitter. And he wrote, this was like September 3rd or September 4th, 2024. He said, is it time for a Churchill thread? It's time for a Churchill thread. And he wrote a fucking 65 thread, written out fucking dissertation of his own on Churchill. This wasn't an out of context tweet or anything. Totally. And I read it. And by the way, the same people who all love the community note system apparently didn't love it when it was getting community noted on this. He makes it so clear. You can see who the guy is. And then when you go and look at all his other tweets, and there's a lot more than the one you mentioned.
Oh
Yeah,
It's
a lot
like-
more. Yeah, we did
It's
receipts on him.
mad, and then
Yeah.
he's Tucker Carlson. He's this amazing historian. But bro, I'm not a historian, so I shouldn't debate this. You
Right.
can't have it both
I know,
ways.
I
And so
know.
Douglas Murray was so cringeworthy that he actually improved that guy's status
Totally.
by trying to lecture Joe Rogan, and probably, I can't speak for Joe, pushed Joe more into thinking like, hey, maybe Darryl Cooper's got a point, without even realizing it. No bad intentions
100%.
whatsoever. I don't know that, but it's like, fuck it, we deserve him if this is what we're doing. Like, we deserve to have this happen, and it's just, God, I wish we could live in moderation again. It's so, I get so worked up about this.
Have
man.
you ever been? I was going to ask you before you spoke about Epstein. I was going to say, have you ever been to the
I've never
island?
been.
Yeah, you've never
Well, actually, I take people to fucking East 71st Street, number 9. I'm like the fucking deranged tour guide in New York.
Oh,
I'm
that's
like,
his,
hey, you want
his
the
townhouse?
Have you guys seen the guy on YouTube who does the impersonations of people on different podcasts? And he did the one of Douglas Murray
I think so.
debating Dave Smith.
Is that the Tony Lapidus guy?
Yes.
Yeah.
So good, dude.
Yeah.
He cracks me up.
You've never been? You've never been. It's like,
You know
no,
what?
I haven't been. What's the big deal?
That is a good Dave Smith.
I don't see the
Joe,
point here.
Yeah. And Dave Smith is smart. I
He's a
disagree with him
very
on,
smart guy,
on
man.
so much. But
Yes.
if you don't understand the enemy, the Sun Tzu shit here, like you got it. Like if you're going to debate him, the thing is, I do think that there is like this, he's not lettered. Like he doesn't understand. Dave Smith is a smart guy. Maybe he's a bit of a Wikipedia historian and this and that, but like he's good. I've seen him now in a lot of contexts.
Bro, he's a good debater.
He's so quick on his feet.
Yep.
Dude, the thing with Douglas Murray, I mean, it speaks to something bigger where everyone will just rest on whatever they have. So, like in this instance, what he had over him was credentials. So it's like, oh, I'm going to use this. Yeah,
What credentials though?
Just that he's educated. That
That's
he went
it.
to Oxford.
Not what he
That he's
majored
been-
in.
that he's
that
been-
he's,
You're
that
right,
he's
'cause
been,
he was
that
like
he's
an
been to
English guy.
Israel.
Because he was allowed.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like that's what he had in this argument to use, and it's just like, so he'll go off and he'll blast the establishment. I mean, that whole book about immigration is just ripping the European establishment for allowing all this immigration and covering up the stuff that was happening. And then in this instance, it was convenient for him to leverage being part of the establishment against Dave Smith. But this is how it always is. Everyone, like especially you talk about Darryl Cooper, Tucker. It's like, they're just whatever they are. Like they're gonna be anti-establishment until they're in the establishment, and then they're gonna flip and they're gonna leverage whatever. Everyone just wants to leverage what assets they have to like improve their brand or to get reach. And Darryl Cooper, I mean, I think he is. Say that debate will be emblematic in the future. I think that the whole Darryl Cooper thing speaks to our time. I mean, it's.
Well, you talk about every reaction equal opposite reaction. I think that the tyranny of the elites has been so. It has prompted this sort of overreaction where people flock to Cooper because they're like, there's such rot at the core of so many institutions, including academia and high schools, not just in the ivory tower. We're talking about curriculums and the people that come out of college. And so they're kind of like, shit, maybe Threads guy is right.
Right. Thank you guys for checking out this clip. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe and hit the like button on this video. It is a huge, huge help. And if you'd like to check out this clip's full podcast episode, that link is in the description below or right here. And finally, you can follow me on Instagram and X by using the links in my description below.